what we'll do is we'll cover a bit about bit of background to the Essential project, a bit of background to EAS, then we'll get into a demo. So I'll show you the viewer, show the cloud as well, so you'll get a view on how it all works. And then we'll come to questions at the end, so we'll go through and get questions right at the end. So in terms of EAS itself, we incorporated in 2000. We are architects. I think it's quite important that people realise that that's our background, that's what we do. About 50% of our consulting work is architecture based. We've got guys that are acting as interim chief architects. I've been chief architect at Europe's largest asset management firm. We are architects, and what we've built is built a tool, and that's what you see with Essential. It's a tool that we built based on our architecture experience and based on what we see going forward. So out with our clients at the moment, we extend it based on that. So we do capability development, strategy development, solution architecture, mentoring, etc. And we get feedback from those processes that we feed into the tool. And that's what you see with the Essential tool and the model. You see what we're picking up from our work, plus the input from the community in terms of what they look for. So that's what we do as EAS. In terms of our client list, EAS, this is, we've got lots of global clients. Here's some of them. Big companies, BAT, AstraZeneca, Lenovo, Catholic Relief Services in Baltimore, various large companies we work with. In terms of the Essential project community members, so these are people that aren't our EAS's clients, but are Essential project users. You're in the company of some major companies, as you can see there. That list shows you who uses Essential, and we get that based on people that use the community, people that register the community, etc., people that keep coming back to the website. So we've got lots of global organizations using this. I would say that a lot of companies use Essential and do it on their own, so they don't come to us for consulting services, and there's some fantastic stuff that's been done by various companies that we've seen where they've shared it with us and said, look, we've done this. So you can use Essential, you can build your own views, your own do your own things with it. You don't need an EAS to be there to support you. If you want EAS support, we can do things like view development, we can do augmentation, we can help you implement it, etc. So that's what we do. In terms of the Essential Cloud, what I'm going to do is basically cover what it is generally and talk about the architecture model that sits behind it and talk about the benefits as well. So what do you get with Essential? You get a Metamodel. So the Metamodel is based on our experience, as I said before. Some people think it's quite complex. What we say is not complex. It covers all the different questions that we've been asked. And what we always say is you use those bits of the model that are important to you. You don't do everything from day one. You pick those elements of the model that are important to you, and you focus on just those bits. So for example, you may start with the application layer. You may build out from there into your business layer, into your technology layer, but you don't from day one try and do everything. Otherwise you will not be successful. But what we've done with the Metamodel is support all those different questions that we think you can ask. And we think it covers pretty much every requirement we get nowadays. I can't really think of anything recently where we've had to extend the Metamodel, but you can extend the Metamodel if you want to. That's supported by the Architecture Manager, which is the tools that you use to capture data and publish data and view data. So there's two elements to it. And really it's about supporting decision making. It's not just about capturing information, it's about having that information and relaying it back in ways that you can then make decisions based on. The tool itself is it's ontology based, so it's about capturing facts and relationships between those facts. That's an interesting way of doing it, because what it means is you can push out data capture to people in your organization. So you may not know what your business processes are within your marketing department, but your marketing teams do. You can push that data capture out to them and say, look, how do you do data capture? You may understand the application estate that supports those marketing processes, and someone else may understand the technology layer, and someone else may understand the data layer. And what Essential lets you do is consolidate all that information into one place and then show you the insight. Where are the opportunities in my architecture? Where can I do things? Where can I cut costs? Where can I grow, etc. We govern the model. It's a GNU license in the open source. We've launched the Cloud Public Preview, which is what we're going to talk about now. And we've kicked the tires in it for several years now, and it seems to work for most problems that you face. Launched in 2009, it does yield results in days and weeks, not months and years. And part of the reason for that is that ontology model. Because it's very simple to extend it, because just adding relationships and adding facts to that thing, it's very quick to get results. And what we see, for example, is if you need a new view developed, typically it takes about a day and a half to get a new view developed. If it's more complex, it can take longer, but generally a slightly fancy view, as you might say, it takes a couple of days maximum. Why have we launched the cloud? The cloud really has come because the open source in some elements is quite rudimentary. So the security model, for example, it's a bit restrictive in what you can do. And what we've been asked by a number of people is, well, I'd like to secure certain things such as financial information. I want to put the financial information in my in Essential, but I can't control it. I want to put cyber data in there, but actually I'm just publishing it to everybody if I'm not careful, and that's very sensitive information. What the cloud does, and we'll show you how in a minute, is lets you get around that now. It gives you the security features that let you control who sees what and how they see it. It also gets away with that install and import issues that people are seeing. So a lot of people say it's quite complex to install different components of the open source. Well, the cloud takes that away now. What we've done is we've built something that you basically sign up, you pay your money, and you're up and running. In terms of what you get with the cloud, same as you get with the open source version. So you get the data capture, you get the Essential Knowledge Manager, you get the import utility, and then you get the Essential Viewer. And then as you capture data, you can then present that back in data insights that your decision makers are using or your architecture team is using to actually say, okay, here's the opportunity. So it's about very structured knowledge, capturing it, analyzing it, and presenting that back to see where the opportunity exists. What does it give you in its own right? It gives you access anywhere. It's a cloud platform. You can use it across devices, so it's got responsive interfaces in there, so you can capture and you can present. So the viewer and the data capture elements work on tablet, mobile device, PC, doesn't matter, any device really. The interface is simplified. So again, the open source version is a bit rudimentary in the interface. We've enhanced that now, and you'll see that when we get to the demo in a minute. The security features, very different from the open source. You can now control at a class level, an attribute level, instance level, report level, at groups. You can have multiple different security mechanisms in place around it. We've also got a technical support that you get with the cloud platform. So as part of the fee, you can buy support packages as part of open source, but for the same price, you get the cloud platform and you get the technical support as part of that. That's included in the cost. We can do single sign-on now. We support SAML, and it also simplifies access to the add-on lenses that we have. So we've got lenses at the moment around application portfolio management, around strategic resource management. We've got data management pack coming up shortly. In terms of the cloud, you just switch those on and it works. With the open source, you have to do a bit of installation, a bit of configuration. It's a bit more complex. So it simplifies that process. I'm going to hand over to Sarah now. She'll talk about the Metamodel and she'll get into a demo for you.
Okay. So I don't know if you've seen this before. This is a fairly standard now four-layered Metamodel. So you have business, application, information and data, and technology. And then we have the layers of conceptual, logical, physical. So conceptual, we think as the what. So what is your business? What capabilities does your business need? What application capabilities are required to support those business capabilities? What are your information concepts and data subjects and your technology capabilities? So really, it is the what. What do I need to enable my business to run? Through in the logical layer, then we tend to think of that as the how. So, how am I going to do this now? What are my business processes? What application services and actual applications do I need to provide them? What are my data objects and my information views? What reports do I need? Where, what databases do I need? And then through into, what technology do I actually require, to enable my applications to run? And then right down into the physical layer, which will be for your processes. It's, where does my process take place? Who does it? Who performs it? At what site? What is the application deployment? Where is it? Which server is it deployed on? What's the information store? So right down into that physical layer. As John mentioned, the Metamodel is ontology based. So if I want to ask, for example, if this server fails, which of my business capabilities are impacted, I can do that. But what I don't do is I don't draw a big fat line from technology physical to business conceptual, from my server to my capability. I navigate the relationships in the Metamodel that are all predefined. So I understand which applications are deployed on this server, what processes or what services are they providing, what processes are using those services, and what capabilities are they supporting. And that's the sort of route we'll take. And by having this ontology-based Metamodel and all the relationships predefined, it allows the viewer to be really, really flexible. So basically, if we can, as long as we can capture it, we can answer any question, and we can visualize that in any way. We've then pulled out this support Metamodel at the bottom here. The reason we've pulled that out is that they can then work on any of these layers. So for example, you can see here we've got strategy management, change management, security. We also have costs in there, regulation. We've got an awful lot of things in there now, and that means they can work on any of them. So if I wanted to look at my business strategy or my application strategy, I could. If I wanted to look at an enterprise strategy, I could. I could look at costs for my applications or costs for my technology or for my whole enterprise. So it just again allows that to be really flexible. So that's a bit about the Metamodel. And just before I flick on and give you a demo of the viewer, we tend to think of Essential here as this content hub, if you like. We think of it. So you will have lots of information in your organisation already. You'll have probably a CMDB, you might have some BPMN tools, you'll have lots of spreadsheets, I'm sure. They're generally siloed either by the type of information that they have or by geographies, different organisations or different countries. What Essential allows you to do is pull in various important parts of these different areas, pull it into one hub and join it all together and allow you to do these things along the top. So, strategy management, application portfolio management, looking at business improvement, etc. So that's how we tend to think of Essential. It's not going to replace all of these, but you will make use, you will have a lot of information already in your organisation that you can make use of. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is, first of all, I'm going to flick over and I'm going to look at the Essential Viewer. So I'm going to show you some of the views that we can get, mainly out of the box, and then I will also look at some of the additional views. As John mentioned, we have some packs that sort of provide a quick route to benefit, if you like. But first of all, I'm going to have a look at the out-of-the-box views. So this is the sort of the viewer you get. You can see we have this split into enterprise, business, information, application, and technology. So I'm just going to look at a few of the views from each of these, if you like. So we have a business reference model. So we can see here, this is a type of business reference model. Business reference model. So these are your high-level capabilities. These are the capabilities underneath there. What we can do initially on this is overlay our strategic objectives. So you can see, for example, this objective here maps to these capabilities. So these capabilities are most important if I'm trying to achieve this objective. We can click through on here and look at a business capability summary. So you'll see when I'm going through, you see quite a lot of these views. This is sort of an everything I need to know about this capability. So for A1 trade management, which domains it in, has it got a parent capability, has it got any sub capabilities, which business processes is it supporting, which information does it need, which application services does it require, and then which are the available applications and which are the applications that are actually providing that service. So you can see here we're getting down into quite a lot of information here of understanding the services, all of the applications that provide that service, and which ones are being used to support this capability. We can go down and look at which objectives this capability is supporting, and then which projects you've got running that are affecting this capability. So we can go down into a lot of detail about a capability summary. We can then click further through. If I wanted to look at a particular business process model, I could look through and look at either a summary of that business process. So again, is it a standard process? Who's performing it? Where is it being implemented? So we can see that it's being implemented in Americas, which applications are supporting it, which information it's using. And then if I flick back to here, I can also look at a business process flow. So this will take me through and say, for this particular business process, I've got a description at the top, inputs, outputs, starting events, etc. And then we can see here I've got a process step, decision points. We can see start events, we can see the actual process steps, who's completing them. That could be a person, it could be an application. We've got decision points. And then we've actually got the detail of each process step here. So this will be captured in the tool. This is actually rendered automatically. So the viewer actually draws this and renders it. If I went and changed something, it would redraw it. So this isn't actually, you doing the drawing, if you like. I can also click through and look at particular applications. So again, if I wanted to go through and look at an application summary, I can drill down into this and look at, again, everything I sort of need to know about this particular application now. So I can see a description, a purpose, the life cycle, delivery model, which services it's providing, whether it's got any contained applications. Sometimes, often you find in organisations that there's one big application that everyone talks about, but actually it's a collection of a number of applications. We can handle that. We can look at which functions it's implementing, who's using it, so which parts of the organisation are actually using that application, and which physical processes it's supporting, with their criticality and their user locations. I will say here, this is dummy data I'm showing you here, so it's not always may not always make sense or be fully complete. We can capture issues against an application or a process, and then look at databases and strategic plans, and right down to technology builds. Don't think we have any in here. So that's sort of a walk through some of the sort of summary, if you like, summary types of views that we've got. So I've started off at a business capability, and I've looked at the summary of the business capability, the business process, down through into the application. Some of the other useful, more analysis views we have this business domain IT analysis. So if I click on a business domain here, that's going to give me some of that information in a different view. So it's all based on the same information. But this is looking at it from for a domain. I've got these business capabilities. I can see the application services they require, which applications are implementing them, who the supplier is, and the technology products required. So again, if I'm making any changes to a particular business capability or within a domain, I can see all of the application and the technology support. And then looking at that in a slightly different way, I've got the business domain process analysis, which you'll see is going to look at very similar information, but rather than look at it from the application perspective, it's going to look at it from the business process perspective. So again, for a particular business domain, I'm going to have my business capabilities. And then, so I've got my business capabilities here, and then I've got the business processes that are supporting those capabilities, the applications that they're using, and the technology products. Okay, so this is really useful for analysis views. We also have, I think I've showed you, business performance model, which then starts to look at, for a particular business objective, the measures against that, target dates, owners, and which drivers it's supporting. So again, this is looking more strategically at your organisation. What's your objectives? How are you measuring that? What business drivers are they supporting? And who's owning those objectives, if you like. So that's some of the things we can do in the business layer. I'm just going to flick down to the application layer now. We've got a number of different views in here. We can start off with an application reference model. Again, this is looking at your application capabilities and your application services. If I click through on here, I can get an application service summary. So for this particular service, trade matching service, I can see the functions it's providing. I can see the business processes that it's supporting, and their criticality to the business. And then I can see which applications are actually implementing those functions. So again, I can see all my functions along here, all my applications. And again, because this is dummy data, it's not fully complete, but you can see with ticks which applications are performing which functions. And you can actually see here which you've decided are standard applications. So I can look over here and I can see, for this service, the Americas should be using A1 Tradeflow, Charles River, and Eclipse. So you can look and see, for your standard applications, which organisation should be using those, which are standard. And then, the idea of this, as you can see, is around trying to remove duplication across your application estate. You can start to see, where you've maybe got one application that's just providing one or two functions that are also provided by different applications, and you can start to look at rationalisation. If we go back to some of our other application views, we have our application information dependency model. So again, for a particular application, we can start to look at our inbound and our outbound feed. So we have our application trade flow in the middle here, and we can see where information is coming in and where it's going out to other applications. And we can actually look at the detail of that of those feeds as well, and see what feeds are coming in, what's going out to different applications. If you want to get down to this level of detail, you can actually look at the information in a feed, so you can see which processes it's supporting, which other applications are using that feed, and you can get down to understanding the timing and the frequency and which attributes are in that feed. So you can go down to quite a lot of detail. Again, as John said, we wouldn't recommend doing everything all at once. It's about understanding what's important for your organisation. Some other views we have here, we have application diversity analysis. So this will be looking at for a particular application capability. This is similar to the ones we looked at in the business capability, but again, for a particular application capability, which services does it require, which are the implementing applications, which are the supplier, and which is the technology. So you can see, depending on your question, you can come at the same, similar information from various different places, depending what your question is. And then we have application impact analysis. So again, for a particular application, if I'm going to change this application, I can understand what the impact is. So if I change this, it's linked to these other applications and it's supporting this business process. So I can understand that any change to this application is going to impact those things. We also have an application deployment summary. So again, for a particular application, I can see which service it's deployed on. So I can see that for A1 Trade Flow, it's hosted in the UK, it's accessed from various different countries around the globe. I can see here who the stakeholders are, so who are the owners, who's the development owner, for example, the support analyst. I can see who's using it, so which parts of the organisation and where they're based. And then I can see which service that application is sitting on. So I can see here it's on a number of different servers. And if I click on one of those servers, I can then see a summary of that server. So for example, I can see that for this particular server, I can see the IP address, the location, and I can see which other applications are deployed on that server. So again, if I have an issue with this server, if this server goes down, I can understand which application is going to be impacted, and I can also from that application then understand which processes, which capability is going to be impacted, and how important they are to the business. So that's a taster of some of the application views. If we look at the information ones, we have a data object summary. So if we look at a particular data object here, we can start to see the detail. Again, one of these summary views, we can start to see the detail of that data object. So I can see which data subject it sits in. I can see all the attributes in that data object with their type. I can understand where that data object is sitting in terms of databases. I can understand the stakeholders, so who's the data subject owner, and who's the data management team member responsible for that, and who the data subject owner is. I can understand the source of truth. So if you've defined that a particular application is the source of truth for that data object, you can understand that. And you can see the systems impacted. So these are all the systems that are using that data object in terms of creating, reading it, updating it, and deleting it. And as you can see, this isn't ideal because we've got loads of applications all creating and updating this data object. Ideally, you'd have a smaller number creating and updating it and a larger number just reading that. So this tells you that maybe there's a bit of an issue there in terms of your data management. And we also have in here data object provider model is really useful. So again, a different data object here. This starts to look at, obviously wasn't a very good one to go for. This view starts to look at where your data is being sourced from. So this is my destination application for this particular data object, and this tells me where I'm getting the data from and how I'm getting it if I've captured it. So I can see that this is a batch file upload. A lot of the others are unknown, but you can see if it's manually entered or how it's getting there. And again, you can see here that we've got our system of record designated. We've got some designated that aren't systems of record. So ideally, you wouldn't be passing all of this data from, ideally all of these applications would be getting it from AAL. We've got lots of the same application getting the same data from, a number of applications, which again isn't ideal. So that starts to again help you to understand where your data, how your data is moving between your applications. And then if we start to look at some of the technology views, again, we have a technology reference model. So this starts to look at our technology capabilities and our technology providers. If we click through on one of these, we can then look at a technology component summary. So again, this is telling us a description, which technology capabilities it's realizing and functions it's providing, and which products are available to provide that capability. We can also start to look at technology strategy alignment. So again, for a particular application, I don't think we've got any fantastic views in here, but for a particular application, you can start to look at the strategy alignment for it. So I can see here that actually for this particular application, it's using technology, one's in sunset and one's in prototype, which again, isn't ideal really. And if I hover over here, I can actually see what it should be using. So I can look, for this particular component that is required, I can look and see what's available. So actually, you should really be using the production version. Ideally, rather than your sunset version. So that's saying, you need to have a plan in place to move from one technology to the other. We also have in the technology a good technology catalogue. We have lots of catalogues that are really useful. If you look at the technology component catalogue, and I flick over to the table version of the view, we can see in here we've got our technology components, all the products that are supplied that are able to perform that component, and then the life cycle status. So again, you can see here what's available and what you should be using. So we can see here, we should be using Net Framework 2 and not .NET Core, and we can see all the way through. You can understand that. That's really useful in terms of governance. So you can start to look at how your applications are aligned, and if you've got new projects coming up, what you should be using, as opposed to what you may be using. So that's some of the technology views. We're just going to look quickly at some of the enterprise roadmap views. So we have here, we can see a strategic roadmap. So for a particular strategic goal here, so client reporting consolidation, we can see here we've got some milestones here. So we're going to do a pilot. We're going to move to shared client reporting in Europe and then in Asia. And I said again, I can get sort of I can click over and see when those should be happening, and we then have our strategic plans here. And again, if I click up, I can get a summary of one of those, or I can click through and actually get the detail of that strategic plan. That's going to tell me, description, a timeline, so I can see when it's starting, when it should be finishing. I can see which then elements of my organisation are going to be impacted by this strategic plan. So in terms of information, I can see that a number of information objects are going to be enhanced. In terms of applications, I can see we're going to enhance some applications, and we're actually going to establish some new applications, and the same, we're going to be establishing some new technologies. I can see which objectives those plans are supporting, and then which actual projects are implementing that change. So we're looking at the strategic plan overall for the organisation, and then we've got our implementing projects. If I click back to this view, we can actually, for this strategic plan, we can actually click over and look at this from an implementation project perspective, or from a strategic plans perspective. And if I click through on one of my projects, I can actually then get a view of what that project is impacting. So we can see the dates of the project, the life cycle status. We can see the roles of the people involved, who the project manager is, who the analysts are, for example, and then we can see what it's impacting. So I can see here that's impacting that one capability. It's supporting some strategic plans, and it's impacting some applications and some technology. So again, some are being enhanced, some are being established, some are being decommissioned. Okay, so that's, I think, just a taste really of some of that. As you can see, we've got a lot of the out of the box views here. I haven't been into all of them. I've been into a taster. We've also got a lot of different catalogues that you can click on that organisations found really useful. We have also, John mentioned, and I'll just have a quick look at some of these. We do provide a number of lenses. Business-specific lenses. So this one, for example, is application portfolio management. This would come with a number of additional views that you don't get free and out of the box. It also comes with a series of capture spreadsheets and import specifications. So basically, you need to capture your data into a series of spreadsheets, and you can import it, and all these views will be populated. These are slightly more enhanced views. So, for example, if I click on the capability model, you'll see very similar to the capability model you saw before. You've got your value chain showing, if you like, but we can do a number of overlays on this. So we can overlay our operating model. We can overlay a differentiating model for your capabilities, so you can see which are your commodity capabilities. You just need to do them well, and you can see which ones you really want to make a difference between you and your competitors. And we can overlay an application footprint. And if I hover there, I can see process trades, for example, is being provided, is using all these applications. And I can see that it's a commodity capability and a number of them are customized or bespoke, which isn't ideal. If I click through on this, then I get the same business capability summary as you saw previously. So, some of the views are similar, but it's providing, some enhanced views, and it's looking at providing the answers to a question. Again, on the application reference model, we have an overlay in terms of the application count. So from here, I can just start to look automatically at, where I've got a number of applications providing the same services, and then actually what should be used, which are the standards, and what's their status in terms of production, etc. We also start to capture things like cost. So you can start to look at the cost of an application, of your application estate. We do this in a couple of ways. You can look at the type of cost. Is it, people, database, etc. And we can also look at the type of application. So you can see whether it's a system of record or whether it's an application, innovation application, those sorts of things. So we can see here that for this organisation, they're spending 50% of their money on systems of record, and only 30% on systems of innovation. A lot of their spend is on people cost, as an example. And what this will lead to is really looking at rationalization. That's this application portfolio management is about looking at how you can rationalize your application estate to make sure that it meets your business needs going forward, but obviously saves you some money. And this is the type of view we can get to where we're looking at for this particular service, I've got all of these applications providing the service. I can look in on those and see why they get these scores. So again, all of the information we're collecting, I can see which capabilities it's supporting. I can see its development model. I can see how well it supports the business. It's only got a 37% fit. I can see that actually its cost is very, it's not in creating much more revenue than it's costing. The integration is relatively complex. All its functions are being duplicated, etc. So we're capturing a lot of information, and they all come into this view, which allows you to sort of say, well, actually, if I rationalize, all of these applications, I save this amount of money. So I'm just showing you this really this is the art of the possible of what we can do with Essential. So we have a number of packs we're creating. They are paid for services on top of what you've seen in the out of the box views. You can create all of these views yourself if you wanted to spend the time doing that. We can train, or a lot of people create views themselves. So the Metamodel, this isn't using any different Metamodel. The Metamodel is exactly the same. This is just providing enhanced views. And we do also provide some view loaders, which are paid for services, but they're for out of the box views, just to enable you to get the information in really quickly. So you get a series of spreadsheets and an import spec, and you can import them and the views will work. So that's a bit about really the viewer, which I think is the most exciting bit of Essential, because that gives you how you're going to analyze your information. So I'm just going to look now at the Essential Cloud version. So this is Essential Cloud. So you can see, hopefully it's a bit nicer than Protégé. We can see here we've got 3 repositories, so it comes with 3 repositories. We've called them production, pre-production, and sandbox. You can call them what you like, but ideally you'll have a production version, and then you'll have a couple of repositories that you can play around in. So if you're going to capture a whole new load of data, you'd capture that in your sandbox and test it in one of your viewers. Again, you've got 3 viewers. You could have the same production, pre-production, sandbox before you import it into production. If I click here, you can see down the bottom, it tells me which I'm in. So I'm going to look at production, and I'm going to go into capture. So I can see here again. It looks rather similar to, if you've seen Protégé. We originally didn't have this tree version, but our pilot people really liked the tree version in the instance browser, so we've put it in. So you can see here we've sort of got our Metamodel here. So we've got business, application, information, technology layers, and then we've got our EA support. And if I expand these, you can see I've got business, conceptual, logical, physical, and I can go in there and I can look at my principles. So I can see all of the instances of my principles and then the detail about my principles. And again, if I look at my application layer, I can start to look down and see I've got my application list in here, and I can see then the actual detail of my applications here. In terms of changing things, if I wanted, for example, to change the delivery model, I just click on that. It takes me only to the correct place because, as I said, all the relationships are defined. So when I click on any of these relationships here, it will take me to the correct instance. So it's quite hard to sort of add wrong things, if you like. If I wanted to add a new one, I can just click on New here, and this will then allow me to, add a test application, for example, and then I can, add the various informations in here. So it's quite easy to use. We've also over here got this journey, which is new, which I think is really useful and has gone down really well with our pilots. So basically this captures all of the instances that you've been on. So if you want to flick backwards and forwards between either different applications or, this is flicking to a business capability, you can do that, and then you can flick back to your, to your application here. And if you flick on here, you can see that, we're in a different place in the class tree. I can just click on focus, and that will take me to where I am in my instance browser. So quite easy to add information. To publish it is also quite easy. So literally, you'll just decide which viewer you want to publish to, and publish, and then that will publish to your viewer. And you can click on your viewer, and you can go and look at all the information in there, which I won't go all through the viewer again, but that's literally how it works. If I click back to Essential Cloud, we have a number of different ways of getting data in. So we still make use of the import utility. We've slightly changed it so it provides you with a data update, which you can apply to any repository then. So you can run an import on your sandbox, and if it works, you can just apply the pack to your production, for example. So it's a bit easier to use. This does allow you to, as I say, get bulk data in quickly via Excel. We also allow imports via Protégé. So if you already have a Protégé version, you can import via that. We also have we do have some APIs that we can make available. We have some out of the box, but to be honest with you, a lot of them require tweaking for organizations because people tend to use standards in a different way. So if you're importing from, say, a CMBD, we find that it needs to be, each organization uses their CMBD slightly differently. So we tend to have to tweak it, but it's quite easy to create APIs. So that's the import, and then configuring it is really easy. If you want to configure a particular class, you can edit a class, you can look at the layout, and you can move things up and down. So if I wanted name to be top, I could just drag that, and that will actually change the form for me. So it's really easy to edit the classes or the slots. We have system administration, so this is where you would get your system updates. So they would appear here, and then you can choose how and when to apply them. You can manage your users in here, so you can add new users. And then we have our repository admin, where you can create snapshots. So that's really easy. If I want to create a snapshot, I can just give it a name and a description, and then I can create a snapshot. And if at any time I need to restore a snapshot, then I can. So again, we would advise before you do any bulk data imports, you do that. And this is again where you can manage users for that particular repository. So I'm just going to hand you over to John now, who's going to talk about the security.
Okay, what we've got, there's two things I'm going to show you here, which is the essential manager, who is in charge of security, and the essential user, who's that security has been applied on. What you do is you manage classifications. So you can set classifications at various levels. What we've got is just one level here, which is just a general security setting. Now, at the lowest level, everyone has access to everything in the repository. That's actually one level below what I've got here as analysts. What I've set up here is 3 levels of security that sit above that now. So with the analysts who have the next level up, the management, the next level above that, and the CXOs who have the highest level of security. And what we can do, we can create various levels here. And again, with multiple groups we can create, so we can have almost a matrix of security. It can get quite complex, but you can need that sometimes. So what we can then apply is we can take instances, we can take classes, we can take fields, we can take the viewer if needs be at various different levels and apply security. So what we've done here is we've got this thing called a new application here. And within there, for security, we've set the settings here that the analyst should have read access, but no edit access. The CXO has got edit access. And for A14AX, what we have is the CXO can only see this. So the analyst, who is the essential user, I'm going to flick to that person now. when they go into Capture and they go to their list, a new application is there. So we talked about they can read, but they can't edit this. So if this person goes in and says, okay, I want to change this delivery model here to that, they don't have permission to do that. So you've got to be at, I think, CXO level or above to actually edit this based on the criteria we set. And also, if you remember, we had A14AX. We didn't allow this user access to A14AX. It's not in their list. So this will carry through. If I apply that to, if I publish this in the viewer, they won't see it either. So the security now can be applied at various levels. And I think Sarah showed you in here, the slot manager. You'll see, you close the error messages. The class manager, sorry. If we go in here and edit a class, access control, I can apply the same controls at this level here. So we can, okay, pick this field here. I could apply that at this level here in terms of edit and read. So I could take, or analyst can only update that or below. So anyone below won't actually be able to edit that field. So that's the way the security works in here. As I said, applied at various levels. So what we've done with security is, if you compare this to the open source model, where again you can control the viewer in terms of who can see it, who can't, but that's it. There's no level in terms of this group of people can see that, this group can't. So we've fixed that with this with the cloud version now. Actually, while we're on security, one thing I forgot to mention is that we actually follow the NIST cyber framework. So in terms of security across the whole model, we follow the NIST framework, and that's what we adhere to. So that's how security works, and that gets applied across each repository as you set up, and you can carry those settings across. I'll hand you back to Sarah now to carry on.
So in terms of provisioning, the provisioning process is quite straightforward, really, especially if you're not already using Essential. So basically, just confirm your authentication approach, your payment method. And once we've received payment, we can put you live, really, and you'll have the 3 repositories and the 3 viewers, and you can go. So yeah, and you can, as we said before, you can switch between, if you start off with the cloud and you decide you don't want to continue it, you have always got the open source version that you can keep your data, convert to and keep your data.